Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
I'm Steiny.
When we last left off, it was just after I had filed a brand new custody agreement through my attorney to get sole physical custody of the girls, and that was in February of 2021. So moving on now to the second part here of this saga. We're going around beginning of March 2021 now, a few more weeks later. I suspected she was still using because she was having like violent mood swings and was just irritable to the point where it was out of hand.
You've seen this version of her before. Yeah.
It's hard to tell what's extra irritable, but if most people on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is like the worst anger they could have. Most people probably idle at like a 2 or a 3. People with anger issues might idle at a 6 or a 7. She idles at like 10. I'm not even embellishing. She's just so fucking out of control. And March 2nd, I went to go pick up the juice for therapy at like 7:30 p.m., right? And I arrived, and I texted the beast, I'm here. And I did not get an answer, so I called the juice's phone. But she did not pick up either. So I walked to the side of the house, and I saw Chi-Chi and their other sister from the beast, Lulu, playing in the living room. And then I walked to the side door on her patio, and I knocked. And after about 30 seconds, she waves me to the regular door, and I go in, and I'm hit with this cloud of weed stink. I mean, fuck, you know how sometimes you go in a place where they're smoking weed with the doors and windows closed?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, whoa.
It's like a punch in the face, yeah.
And it did. And it's in her kitchen where the kids are running around. And I asked her why the kitchen smelled like weed, and she replied, it isn't from me.
Oh, so that makes it okay.
Interesting note. She had let some 50-something-year-old guy that she said was, quote, a family friend, start living in her house because he was kicked out by his wife.
Okay.
It was fucking weird. He was like an old black dude.
There's no ground rules for this guy smoking weed in the house when she has kids?
Well, when the girls first started sleeping there again, and this is an important note, he was sleeping on the couch upstairs, and their rooms were upstairs because she had taken their room that they had been sharing in the basement for herself and given the juice her own room because of her age and put Chi-Chi and Lulu in a room. And I'm like, no, he's not going to sleep upstairs with the kids. I don't care if it's the only bathroom in the house. So he was sleeping downstairs. And that's where he was smoking weed downstairs.
Okay.
With his son, who was like, I don't know, 22.
Oh. Father just
That's what was going on. Yeah. It isn't from me. And the juice immediately asked, how do we know that?
Gotcha, bitch!
I'm like, touche. And the beast got pissed. But, she implied the odor was from the guy. And then my wife and I relayed this to the CPS lady who said she would, quote, take care of it. And then you fast forward to Thursday, March 4th. The beast came to drop the girls off. She walked into the back door. And then she steps up into the landing at the back of my house because we use that door. And she just starts yelling about how I lied to CPS, that the kids were running around in weed smoke. And I'm like, I didn't lie. I told her that I smelled weed pretty strongly. And that when you opened the back door, all 3 kids were standing right there. So it stood to reason they were breathing in second-handedly. And then she keeps yelling and yelling. So I put my hand up to back her out and shut the door in her face. What she didn't know is my wife was sitting with our son on the couch, heard the whole fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
So she left without further incident, but we reported it to the CPS lady to let her know of this
because
exchange.
She's going to report her own version of the events, too.
Yeah. And then I was just like, I'm questioning the beast's mental state and how the children were right there for it. The CPS lady's like, oh, yeah, that's bad. So then we go to March 16th. I get word from CPS that the beast failed a UA and that the sample was diluted but came back positive for meth. So she had been using around when she had the kids and that she had tried to flush her system, basically, is the theory that we're going with. And the girls were already here, so they never went back to her place because another safety plan. This is the 3rd or 4th one at this point.
Sure.
They keep doing them, for a few months at a time. So April 3rd now, 2021. The beast goes to treatment in Waverly. But she checked herself out 5 days later because she said that she would go to a different treatment place that wasn't so churchy, and that she would go that following Friday.
How long was she supposed to be in there? If she
This is supposed to be a 30 to 60 day stay.
Oh, okay. Wow,
she made it 5 days.
Sure.
And then she was going to go Friday, a few days after that, but then she disappeared for almost 2 weeks.
Another meth binge, probably.
Yeah, she was, when I finally got a hold of her, she was in a hotel in St. Cloud, wouldn't tell me why.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Right. So now we're at April 26th, and I got a call from CPS saying that the beast took a UA on April 9th that came back diluted and positive for meth. So another one.
Oh, okay.
And just like the result from March 1st, she tried to flush. They're sending it to the lab. So she suggested an addendum to the temporary order stating that the beast maintains sobriety as an added stipulation.
Nice.
Which we put in there.
Absolutely.
So if she fails a UA, the kids come back to me. She goes back to supervised visitation.
Yeah, you can't trust that environment if she can't stay sober while she's with them.
So then she's like, I'm going to go to treatment at a different place in Pine City, which is like, you're going to go get treated for meth addiction in Pine City?
Well, it's a nice area, but...
Oh, it's not. And there's a lot of drugs up there.
No, there sure is, I was going to say.
So anyways, the treatment place comes to pick her up for direct transport, but she slept through her alarm and missed her ride.
That can happen when you're coming down from long binges.
Yeah. So she called me in the early afternoon and tells me this dire picture of her mental state and said, and I quote, "I'm sorry for all of this. I just want to die. There's only 2 reasons I haven't killed myself, and they're that I don't have a gun, and I wouldn't want someone to have to find me because it would probably end up being my mom who would." And then she says her mom would drive her to treatment the next day, which happened.
Okay.
It happened. But then 2 days after that, so April 30th, the Juice got a call from the Beast, who was not at treatment. She was at the hospital because she had made some statements about not wanting to be alive anymore or wanting to die. So they took her to the Cambridge Psych Hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They told her she'd be staying. Apparently she freaked out at treatment and some sort of outburst. Mental health emergency classification got her in Cambridge. And then she called me the next day, May 1st, to let me know that she was there on a 72-hour hold that would not start until Monday the 3rd due to her mouthing off to a doctor. He's like, we're going to start the clock after the weekend.
Sure. Yeah.
So she says that she doesn't need treatment, but just mental health services. And it's like she's in fucking denial and has a major problem. Oh, really? She fails 2 UAs in the last month. She spent almost 2 weeks away from home in the middle part of April doing God knows what, presumably binging. And, May 4th. She leaves me a voicemail, says she's out of the hospital, returning to the treatment place. Unfortunately, though, her stay did not last very long because 9 days later, May 13th, I'm driving by her house and I see her van in the driveway. And I see the door is wide open, like the driver's side door is wide open. Oh. And that her screen door is like propped. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right, somebody breaking in?
Because she got dropped off. Her van's been there. So I pull into the driveway and I approach the vehicle and she's sitting there smoking. And she's like, I was just about to call you. And then some sob story about the counselor at treatment center was, quote, a fucking bitch who didn't understand her. So she came home.
Oh.
And again, she's really not working this entire time. She's maybe trying to DoorDash when she can. But because Dumblecock had cloned her phone, he was fucking with her apps so she couldn't DoorDash. And she didn't think to go get a normal job because everything had opened up again a long time ago. She's just being fucking lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mid-May, we're at now, 2021. And this is where I filed an order seeking full custody in the emergency situation due to her getting hospitalized for making the statements, the failed UAs, the in and out of treatment. She's not getting any better. And her lack of employment and instability. So 2 days later, the judge just granted it without question.
Rubber
Sight
stamp.
unseen.
Yeah.
Just rubber stamps it and sets a court date for 2 weeks because that's what they got to do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hilarious because the Beast starts texting me and then calls me and she's losing her fucking mind. And one thing she kept saying is, enjoy your 2-week victory because I'm going to fuck you back in court. I'm going to prove what a liar you are. And I'm just like, okay, bitch.
Yeah, bring it.
I knew she was floundering because when she talks shit and makes threats, it's when she's cornered and she doesn't know what to do. So she's blindly trying to shake my cage to get me to fuck up, which I'm not going to do. I'm laser focused at this point. Like, Jesus Christ, it's being in World War II and I'm seeing the end of this. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get you, you bitch.
Right? After all of these battles back and forth, the end of the war is in sight.
And I said to her, I'm like, good luck, because your lawyer is basically swimming up a waterfall. Like, holy Christ, it must be infuriating to be your lady lawyer. Because when we get to court for the big dance, I want you to know that I'm going to be Mike Tyson and I'm going to make you look like Peter McNeely. Boxing purists will get that reference and appreciate it because McNeely came out of nowhere and they tried to pull this Rocky Marciano, oh, look at him, he's so badass. And they made him seem like he was a legitimate threat to Iron Mike's title or whatever. I maybe he had the belt, maybe he didn't. Either way, he was going to knock Mike Tyson out. Tyson put him on his ass, dude. And that's what I was going to do to her. So, early June, the 2 weeks go by, we had court for that emergency order, and the judge is like, there are over 100 pages of police reports, and I'm seeing substance abuse, irritability, instability. You're belligerent. You're assaulting people. You're constantly under the influence. And you think that I'm not going to uphold this emergency order? Like, I had to cover my mouth because I was smiling so big. And we're on fucking Zoom camera.
Right. You can't cheer, but you want to cheer. And
yeah, I'm just like ventriloquism on the corner of my mouth, like, gotcha, Rich.
Yep.
That judge that was presiding over our case, by the way, once upon a time ago, when I told my wife to get a restraining order against the beast, same judge.
Oh.
And the judge in that hearing said, hey, beast, I do think you told Jmann's wife you were going to beat her fucking ass. You say you didn't, but I believe you did. Yep. So I'm upholding that. Same one. And we're talking about visitation now during this hearing. And this is an important part where it's like, it's going to be supervised. And I'm like, her mom won't fucking deal with it. And her mom's not going to sell her out if she thinks she's under the influence. She's an enabler. All of her friends have abandoned her, except for her one friend that we all refer to as Stoner Cassie. Guess why? Because she's constantly lit up, token up. And her brother is a meth head, and she's got no support system, right? And then there's my side. My parents don't want any part of it. My wife doesn't want anywhere near her. And I got nobody else that's going to help. So it's got to be me. And she was piffed.
Well, yeah.
The beast was like, no way. And she's like, I'm sorry, but he's got a point. You've kind of left him with no other options. And he's the one that's going to sit there and know you if you're under the influence. He knows your lies. He knows your acts. I'm going to allow it.
Yeah.
Try to find somebody else if you can, but I'm going to allow it.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, it was so fucking great. So the visits that we had, that I was overseeing, they are tumultuous. She complains about the venues I picked, which were always neutral in public. I'm like, she's not going to freak out in public. It took months, but then we started having them at her house. And when I say months, it took like 2 months probably, where she would get 2-hour visits a week. And it was always like public. Mm-hmm. And we had one at a splash pad, and she showed up 20 minutes late. And she complained the whole time about how hot it was, and her other kid was there, and she's overheating. I'm like, that's not my kid. That's not my problem. Fucking bring her a bottle of water and some sunblock. Be a parent.
I was just going to say, be mom.
Or another one where we had it at Lions Park because the kids wanted to do it there. Okay. She's like, can I take him to go get Taco Bell across the street? I'm like, no, you can't drive them. That's the rules right now. You're not allowed to drive them at all. Well, but this is my visit. I'm like, so go and get the food quick and fucking come back, and we will pause the clock. And I was giving her extra time every time.
Yeah, because you still want your kids to see their mom.
There was one visit in particular that, holy fucking Christ, we go to her house. We get out of the car, and I tell the girls, I'm like, if your mom yells at me, the judge and CPS have both given me carte blanche to say, visit's over. So if I say, all right, let's go, I don't want to hear another fucking word. You immediately get up from whatever you're doing. You drop it. You put your shoes on. We're in the car in 30 seconds or less.
Right. It'll be a race.
And we get there, and her half-sister's there. This is the half-sister that she found out she had because this half-sister did one of those genealogy studies and found out she had siblings she never knew about because the beast's dad was, as I put it in court, a serial philanderer.
Yeah, you brought this up previously.
It was funny because the judge kind of looked at me like, huh. Like she had never heard somebody drop that line in court before because I had to discount why her half-sister couldn't be the one to supervise. Like the only reason that you know of your half-sister's existence is because she did like a 23andMe and you've only known her for like 4 months. I don't know this woman. So we show up to the house for the visit at her house and I'm going to be babysitting this. And we get there and we walk into the house, open the door, weed.
Here we go again.
So here's what basically happened. What I said was, boy, you really did a half-assed job of trying to cover up that weed smell. I was kind of cheeky about it. Her reply was, well, it isn't mine. And then asked, does it matter if it isn't mine? So the implication seemed to be that it was her sister's fault because she had some. And I'm like, that didn't change anything. Time to go. So then we're going outside and she's like, well, I found an old one-hitter with some old weed in it, but I threw it away. It's like, so her fucking story's changing. And she's like, what's in the garbage can if you want proof? And then she just fucking goes off on me. So as we're getting in the car, she's yelling at me and she's cussing me out in the driveway. And she's saying to the girl, she's like, remember that your dad's a fucking asshole and he cares only about himself.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, I have to immediately call CPS and report that this happened. And she's like, no, that's fine. You did the right thing. You didn't yell back. I'm like, no. I let her fucking just flap her gums.
Dig her own grave.
Yeah, with the kids. And at this time is when she kept threatening to sue CPS. And she was using precedent of previous people they'd worked with that had mental health issues, that had their kids taken away. And it was such a terrible thing to happen to these families, completely ignoring the whole chemical dependency segment to this. And I should add that we're 5 months into this new CPS lady who's now on my side. She has seen the beast for who she is, the diluted tests, the threats to her own mental health and on her life and shit. And it's just like, okay, you weren't kidding. I'm sorry. She's on my side now, which I have to say was very cathartic to finally have things click. And my wife is still kind of being a go-between a little bit. But because doing that isn't getting her what she wants, she stops working with my wife, the beast, I mean, and tries to butter me up. And it's just like, fine, I will take over the reins again with CPS. We're at June 22nd now. The previous entry was 5 days prior. She had a positive UA for THC and amphetamine, but it's being sent to the lab to check for methamphetamine. Now, if you don't know about drug tests, AMP versus MAMP. AMP could be any medication you're taking that's amphetamine-based.
Sure.
Ritalin, amphetamine salts, Vyvanse. MAMP is it detects pseudoephedrine in the urine stream, and that's how they know you've been using meth, because people use Sudafed or other pseudoephedrine to make the meth.
Exactly.
Ta-da! There's some lab shit for you. So that was the text message on the 22nd. The 25th, I get another text message that the UA from 615 was positive for THC but negative for meth.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to jump here a little bit. Early July 2021. She goes to treatment again. Fucking finally. It took months of her dodging and trying to do this. I'm going to get a new CD eval done with a Rule 25. But always, again, self-reporting. No collateral contacts from me or her other kid's dad. And at that point, we had an August court date for the custody hearing. Like the big one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, should I maybe offer a continuance so that she can get through treatment? Not because I'm a nice guy. No. Because I have to make it look like I'm a nice guy.
Oh, yeah, for the court.
Because I've said to the judge, I want her to get better so she can be there for the kids. Right, I know. I mean, I did. That'd be nice. But also, fuck her. She made this bed. She can lie in it. And before I can even call my lawyer to suggest it, her side's already also suggesting it. So I'm like, oh, it's funny you say that, because I was going to go for the same deal. So whatever. So without some back and forth bullshit involving, a bunch of arguing over it, we just went for it.
Yeah.
And we offered the continuance to allow her to finish up. But She finished without technically finishing because she got COVID and came home and then went back, and then there was a COVID outbreak and they sent her home a few days shy of finishing.
Oh, Jesus. How
Yes.
does she get so quote-unquote lucky?
Shit is like fucking daytime soap opera crazy.
Yeah.
All these fucking curveballs that are thrown.
So she was there for about a month then, or in this treatment program?
No, she was there for 2 weeks.
Oh.
And with the COVID back and forth, obviously. And then going back for what was only supposed to be like 3 or 4 more days. So now take us to mid-August. I get a text from
The Beast.
She wants to see the girls. She stated she had been in the hospital last week and that it was serious. And she was afraid she was never going to see them again. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You were in the hospital last week and you didn't say anything?
Mm-hmm.
I called her. I was taking a shit, but I'm like, you know what, fuck it. And she tells me that she went to the hospital because she was, quote, in an accident. I'm like, what do you mean? Your fucking van's totaled? She's like, no. So it was somebody else's car? Well, no. So how did you have an accident? She's like, they ran a bunch of tests on me, all right, because they thought that I had arterial dissection in my neck.
Say what?
Right. I'm like, what the fuck? So that's where you tear the artery
Yeah.
in your neck. And I assumed from crash impact. And she was trying to hide that she was riding with Dumblecock when
Okay.
she's not supposed to be seeing him.
Sure. And they got into an accident, you're saying?
And I asked for details and received nothing other than it wasn't COVID or drug related. And her car is fine. And she claimed she was alone, but wouldn't tell me what she was doing, whose car it was, or where she was going. And I'm like, all signs are pointing to she's afraid to tell me something, because her replies frequently were, it doesn't matter. And that's her classic catchphrase when she doesn't want to admit something. And then she would also say, well, you're just going to use it against me. Fair play, because I will.
Yeah.
I will, you dirty bitch. And then we're a month and a half later, September 28th. And so we were going to do mediation to try to not go to court. To save,
yeah, because they always want you to start there.
yeah, we were going to save thousands of dollars doing this. But this is
The Beast.
and she sucks. So, going into this, I already told the mediation lady, like, this is not going to work. Other times that we've done mediation, she cancels the day of and gives some bullshit excuse. So just be on guard that I'm sorry if this falls through. I will try to keep you abreast of the situation if it changes. And, the whole thing was to make it look like we really want to work with her more than I did. And I knew it'd be a waste of time and money. She's only going to tell me she wants joint custody still. And I'm like, you're not getting that. If that's what you're bringing to the table, that's a non-starter.
Yep. Never gonna happen. You have no chips to play with that are gonna get you that.
I might add that it was my second week at my new job, working at the warehouse. And I already had to take a half day, which I didn't have any time to eat up. So I had to use protected PTO on credit. And then, of course, it's a few thousand for this 3-hour mediation, because I'm paying for the mediation and I'm paying for my attorney's time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so, ka-ching. We sat down with this lady, my lawyer and I, via Zoom, and I told her all my reasons for not wanting to give her anything beyond visitation. And then
The Beast.
counters with joint and joint and a bunch of dates she wants for herself. So her first reply to "you don't deserve this" is, "here's what I want, fuck you," basically.
No. Yeah.
And we're not in one Zoom room. We're in breakout rooms. And the mediator's going back and forth. And I'm like, here's the deal. She's got this dude. I don't know what the hell's going on. He stole her identity. He's on drugs. She's fucking scared of him. She had this mysterious accident a month and a half ago and thought she was going to die, but she still doesn't tell me what's going on. And it was 90 minutes of back and forth before I finally said, I'm going to walk unless you put us all in one Zoom room together. This is ridiculous. She's like, well, normally I would be worried that you guys might not get along with your history. I'm like, I don't care.
We're already there.
If she's going to flip out, she's going to flip out. That's in her nature. I can put on my big boy pants and be professional, but this is the only way we're going to get this done in a timely manner. We're already halfway through a 3-hour session, and we've accomplished fuck all. She's like, okay. And we do it. And the mediator is like nervous while we're doing this. And it's 90 more minutes. It went the full 3 hours. And then the mediator ended it with no resolution. Because the beast wouldn't listen. She wouldn't agree. She kept pushing for joint. She wanted these dates. She wouldn't listen to me. She's sitting on her front step, holding her phone with earbuds in, waiting for her other kid to get off the bus. She's looking for the bus. She's outside. She's got bad reception. She's not paying attention. The lady was just furious. And once it ended, she's like, if you guys want to reschedule to try this again, just let me know. Click. Like, it was not goodbye, thank you. She was like so mad at her. And I called my attorney immediately. I'm like, okay, I don't want to assume that we did awesome there, but that just ended because of her, right? He's like, absolutely yes. Yes, and I've already, before you called me, her attorney called me immediately to apologize. I'm like, interesting. You know? But fucking 3 hours and all that money.
Yeah.
That was
just to have an argue fest.
$1,500 just for that day. So obviously I was pissed about all this, and my lawyer understood, and behind the scenes then for a few days,
yeah,
he and her attorney worked out some kind of deal, a day here or 2 days there. We were building up to it. It was part of the post-mediation agreement, is that she would get 4 weeks of visits if she's clean. You know, we'd build up to 1 overnight and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So the kids were over there, and the juice left her COVID mask, her cloth good mask for school over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I have to get up early for work anyway. Leave it in a bag hanging on your screen door. I'll come get it in the morning. You won't have to see me. None of that. She's like, okay. She was very agreeable to it. 5:15 in the morning, I go out to her house. And I pull up in the driveway, and there's an SUV I don't recognize. But it's got this big sticker on the back that says, Jesus is King. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? And I get around the SUV, and she's standing in the driveway with 2 dudes that I don't know who they are. Now, I think they're 2 old friends of hers that are druggies and felons and pieces of shit. One of them, back in the day, diddled his own sister.
What?
Yeah, he told people that there was some other shit, but years ago, he diddled his own, like, half-sister or stepsister or something. Yeah. And he's a known narc. He fucking snitches out other criminals. He's the fucking scum. Right?
Yeah, on both sides of the fence. Jeez.
So I pull up and I look at her, and she walks up to me. She's like, what's with your pissy face? And she hands me the bag. And I just look at her and I'm just like shaking my head no. She's like, fucking say something. I back out the driveway. And I go home and I'm fucking livid. She's trying to text me to explain herself, but it's not making sense. And I'm just like, fucking come clean. And it was not what I had thought, actually. It was worse. And she admits that it wasn't her 2 old friends, no. It's actually Dumblecock and his buddy of the same name, who Dumblecock is fucking this guy's wife, unbeknownst to the guy. But they're friends. And that is the day that I finally learned about the accident.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm like, why is he there? He came to get his stuff. Why? Well, because he came to say goodbye to me. And, well, okay, like, I told him not to come over, but he was pretty adamant to come get his stuff because he thought I was going to throw it away. So he showed up here, and I had told him not to, but he was still here, and I thought about calling the cops, but I'm like, no, I'll just go outside. It'll be a quick goodbye. Now, I still have full custody of my kids. Her other kid, her dad, doesn't have all the ammo I have, so they have like a handshake 50-50 agreement going. That kid's inside with her when this dude and the other dude show up. So even though alarm bells are going off in her head, like, don't fucking go out there, she still goes out there.
Yeah, because it's a load of crap.
And after I left and he left, she called the cops, who then arrested him. I'm like, for what? She's like, okay, so when I told you that I had that accident, Dumblecock had called me from treatment, and he had been kicked out, and he didn't have a ride anywhere, so he asked me to pick him up, and I figured I probably shouldn't, but I also know what it's like to be down and out. So I went and got him. I was driving and we were fighting. Well, actually, I was yelling at him mostly. And he kept telling me to stop, but I kept going because, you know, that's what I do. And she was very prescient in all of admitting this shit. He asked me to pull over, and I wouldn't. He threatened to call the cops because I wouldn't pull over, and I still kept yelling at him and driving. He told me that he felt like he was going to lash out if I didn't let him out. And then I pulled over, and I kept yelling at him, and then he started strangling me to the point that I almost blacked out. And I'm like, arterial dissection from being strangulated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why you were hospitalized for 2 days, and they ran a gamut of tests to make sure you weren't bleeding out internally, and you were all afraid that you weren't going to see the kids again, is because this fucking idiot almost strangled you half to death. So she had picked him up and admitted that it was a bad idea. So these are two instances where alarm bells in her head are like, don't fucking do this, and she ignores it, which I later used against her in court, I might add.
Shows poor judgment.
Yeah, but it's funny because, when she admits all this to me, I'm like, when are you finally going to fucking get your shit together? Why does he have such a hold on you? He strangled you half to death, and you're just like still talking to him. The funny thing is why he got arrested that morning for being there after he left is because there was a warrant out for his arrest. Outstanding from when he had strangled her on the side of the road, and that she went to the hospital afterwards, and then the charges were pressed. But they had let him go that day, so they had to fucking find him. Well, of course, the morning I go for the mask, there he was, and they finally found him. They picked him up on the warrant. There was a DANCO in place, domestic abuse no contact order. This is a big deal. This is a major fucking part of the story because it keeps getting brought up down the line again and again. And can I just say that my main takeaway from this is I was pissed at him, not for strangling her half to death, but for only strangling her half to death. Like, nobody likes a half-ass. You could have saved me like $25,000 in fucking court fees and lawyer bills if you had just finished the job. And you would have made it so that I never have to deal with her again. It would have made all of our lives so much easier. Like, bad for them, but then, like, I don't have this specter,
Yeah.
Like your own kid's mom who's always in the background lurking, waiting to fuck up your life.
Exactly. But just by being there.
And he didn't finish the job, and it really pissed me off.
Could have made your lives better, could have made society's better because he would have been locked up for the rest of his life. It sounds like he's really not contributing much anyway.
Yeah, dude. But that's the next chapter ending here. Stay tuned for the next installment. Same bat time, same bat channel. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
I'm Steiny.
And that's the end.